The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Anu Diekman. I'm on Esri's Health and Human Services team, and we're happy to be here today to talk to you about the benefits of GIS for optimizing your field operations. We've got three speakers today, Jonathan Garrido-Leca, James Tedrick, and Derek Law, who will speak to you about how you can leverage the value of ArcGIS field apps to improve your inspection workflows. A couple of logistics before we get started. On the right-hand side of your screen, you have a GoToWebinar toolbar, and there's a section for questions. Go ahead and type in any questions you have for the speakers throughout the presentation. I'll monitor it, and at the end, we'll be sure to have time to answer them. Lastly, this will be recorded, and a recording will be available in about a week. Thanks again for joining us, and Jonathan, please take it away.
All right. So hello, everyone, and welcome to this new edition of our Health and Human Services meetups. Today, we will be talking about how you can optimize your field operations with ArcGIS. And I am really excited because we have great material to share with you today. So as Anu was mentioning, today I have the pleasure to have here Derek Law, Technology Evangelist at Esri, and James Tedrick, Product Manager for Survey 123. Finally, I am your host, Jonathan Garrido-Leca, Solutions Engineer for the Health and Human Services team. And I am sure that you will enjoy this presentation. So let's begin with a brief overview. As you can see in our agenda, we will touch each of the main workflows for fieldwork activities, from capturing data to monitoring your information. And finally, we will have some time for questions. So let's talk a little bit about the context of field operations. And I am sure that whether for the support of an outbreak investigation or for emergency preparedness activities, or the support of active or passive surveillance, field operations are critical for health and human services organizations. It provides the key data used to estimate the magnitude of a problem. It helps us to examine relationships between risk factors and outcomes. And finally, it helps us to develop interventions and with continued monitoring, assess the effectiveness of those interventions. But we as health professionals face many challenges when it comes to fieldwork. Some of them are related to the use of paper, such as the lack of dynamic maps that give us detailed information when needed, or the high probability of human error when entering information into the surveys. But maybe one of the most important challenges is the lack of continuous operational awareness, preventing managers to have a better sense of the field operations status, and therefore making it really hard to manage their workforce efficiently, taking care of their safety while optimizing their time spent on their activities. So these kind of problems make it clear that we need enhancements of the traditional approaches to fieldwork activities. It is really important to allow health professionals to effectively collaborate, communicate, and collect critical situational intelligence through a common platform at short notice. And here is where ArcGIS plays a key role for health professionals. Today, we will explore how ArcGIS field operation apps enable health organizations to perform the common workflows from a day-to-day work. Workflows like the planning process, when you plan how you will balance your field activities among your workforce, or the navigation process to understand what is the best way to get where you really need to go. Also, the data capture process, where you will collect the information that you need. And finally, the monitoring process to allow folks back in the office to keep an eye on what's going on in the field. So let's start with the first workflow, capturing data. And to cover that specific part, we will talk about two of our apps for that segment, Collector and Survey 123. So let's start with Collector. I'm sure that most of our users have known Collector for quite some time, but today I would like to highlight some of the newest features that this amazing app has in its last release. You know that Collector has a comprehensive integration with high accuracy GPS receivers. But maybe what some of you still don't know is that Collector have now many interesting news for improving your experience in the field. Improvements such as the support for labels on your maps, as well as the support for arcade expressions, making it possible to create calculated fields. Also, now it's possible to set fields as required in your Collector form. And finally, in terms of user experience, field workers now have options such as the compass navigation, audio recording, and so on. So most of these capabilities can be configured in the map that you will use during the data collection process. And that's what makes Collector a map-centric app. So let me show you some of these new features. So let me open here my tablet. There we go. So right now I will demo, let's say I am part of the Redlands Health Department, and I will use Collector. As you can see here, let me put this in the middle of the screen. There we go. So we have received a request from the community about an unusual cluster of mosquitoes near to Esri. That blue dot that you can see here is my current location. This is building W. And I have a request here in the park that is in the north side of Esri. I can click on the request. I can see the information related to this request. It's related to mosquitoes. I can go to the attachments and see specific attachment that the user has attached to this request. But also what I can do is to basically, number one, I can navigate to that specific location. Or since this is a walkable distance, I can use the compass to kind of have a better sense of the direction towards that specific request. In this case, let's say I go to this to the park, and my first step will be to create a treatment zone. So I can start drawing that specific polygon, this treatment zone. You can see how easy it is to basically define this area. We'll do this quickly. I can do this also in real time if I will be integrated with a GPS receiver. There we go. So this will be a adult-deciding treatment zone. We will use handheld sprayers. The report date, let's use June 10. We received that request in June 10. That was my birthday. And as a description, let's put here demo. And let's submit this treatment zone. Now, what is really interesting now is that once I create this area, you can see that I have a label on the map that says that this specific treatment zone was created after 17 days after the request. And that is because we have here, you can see in the left side, an auto-calculated field that was configured using the web map. So you can see how really powerful it is to use these auto-calculated fields. Now, after I define the treatment zone, what I can do is to install a site for deploying a mosquito trap. So I will install a site here. This will be site type, adult mosquito trap, status active, some description. just for the sake of this demo. And also, I have the possibility to insert the device code. And if you see here in the corner, I have the option to scan a barcode. So I can point to a specific barcode, get the information, attach a picture of that specific mosquito trap, and submit this point. There we go. Again, since this is a math-centric app, also I can take advantage of related tables. So for example, for this specific site, I can start taking samples. You can see here the segment for related tables. So I will hit here on samples, add a new sample, go ahead to the location of that specific site, add the point, the mosquito trap, attach a picture of me collecting the sample and submitting the information. Even more, if I send information to the lab, again, since all this information is related due to related tables, I can insert information of the lab results. So just to finish this, I have here another treatment zone, and you can see that for this specific site, I have 3 samples. So this is a quick demo on Collector. I think that can give you some ideas on how you can take advantage of the new capabilities of this app. But now it's time for James to show us some of the new capabilities also in Survey 123. James.
Thanks, Jonathan. Wait 1 sec. There we go. So yeah, thank you. So I'm going to cover Survey 123, which is our form-centric data collection solution. So you're probably familiar with forms. We have them throughout our lives, both professionally and personally. Every industry needs to write down information and in a systematic method. What Survey 123 does is it takes these paper forms and transforms them into smart forms that live on your device or on the web. Smart forms enhance the ability for you to collect by being able to reduce errors. For example, we don't need to transcribe, perhaps sloppy handwriting once we're back at our computer. We can also restrict choices to a set list of options rather than allow for free text for various answers. We can also design the form so that only the parts that need to be seen for a particular collection are actually seen. This reduces the complexity of the form for the end user. They don't have to consider whether or not a question is appropriate to be answered or not, and simply makes the form quicker to fill out. We can also take advantage of the fact that we're filling this out on our devices, such as our phones or tablets or computers. They can do things such as calculate answers automatically. So for example, creating a total score based on a variety of factors. We can also leverage the sensors and other aspects that come integrated with our devices. Things as simple as the clock or the camera on a phone or the GPS. Finally, by collecting data via our devices and submitting it back to the database directly, we enable a real-time follow-up situation so that you can submit the data, it can be viewed in the front office and in the back office automatically. And if there's a question that arises, you can actually ask your field crew right when they're in the field so that they don't have to come back, reanalyze the data, and then head back out again. And then finally, taking advantage of, again, our devices that have location, a GPS sensor, we can record the location of the form when we're filling this out so that we know where the person was filling out the data when they were filling it out, providing a level of verification that the data collection is actually happening where it's supposed to be. Just as an example, the American Red Cross has started to use Survey 123 forms fairly extensively in their disaster response. So when a natural disaster such as a hurricane or flooding event occur, they are able to give their volunteers who are using their own devices for the forms. They can go out, conduct damage assessments, have that data submitted back in the field. I had a quote from one of the disaster volunteers that it used to be that their job during a disaster, their full-time job was to take the paper that was being filled out in the field and transcribe that back into the database. So this literally has saved the entire work of one person, in terms of being able to more efficiently get that data back from the field. So with Survey 123, what we're trying to accomplish is to make this data capture workflow as simple as a three-step process. The first is to ask the questions, to design the form that we want to fill out. The second is to go out and get the answers, whether that's using your device, a web browser, whichever is suitable for your situation. And then three, look at the data and be able to make decisions quickly. And to highlight that, I want to step through and show how we can do this within the Survey 123 website. So I've switched over to the Survey 123 website at survey123.arcgis.com, and I've begun creating a survey. We support creating a survey either here on the website or with a desktop tool called Survey 123 Connect. The difference is that Survey 123 Connect is a little bit more complicated, but also allows us to have a much greater depth of smart form capabilities. So Jonathan, for example, showed scanning a barcode. We have the ability to specify a barcode scan in Connect. We also can provide the calculations. If we need to calculate data based on a previous answer, we can do that within Connect as well. But getting started with the website is a great way to begin. So I'll just begin with start by putting in a question relevant to a restaurant inspection. So obviously, one thing that needs to be recorded is the inspection time. And again, taking advantage of the fact that all of our devices, computers, phones, tablets have a clock in them, we can actually specify to take the time that was presented at when it was loaded. We can also set this to be required and then begin to add another question. So just add a simple text question, the restaurant name. And then we can also add in a point question, the location. And this location can use the device's location, or it will also be able to find an address. So I'm just going to begin by saying a default location to Los Angeles, California. And for the restaurants, we probably want to get down to the street level so that we have the appropriate context. Now going to actually create a group to store the next set of questions. And so, and the grouping allows us to easily hide or show questions all at the same time, making it easier to navigate. So the first one we're going to begin is saying select question, a single choice question, so that we'll be able to select yes or no. And just make sure that first ask that the proper handling smart forms are also helpful in terms of being able to make sure you spell everything on the form correctly. And for this single choice, we just need a easy, in compliance, or out of compliance choice set. And I'll just actually make that horizontal so that we can see that. And let's add a second question for if they're out of compliance, what are the remedy requirements needed? So this question needs to be shown only when we're out of compliance. So I can go here and set a rule. So if this is out of compliance, we'll show the remedy requirements. I can preview this form. And you can see the information. You can see that it'll actually access my location and update. There we are. And that if it's out of compliance, the remedy requirements are seen. So I can publish this. One thing that Survey 123 does is it's based on the form you create. So rather than needing to go in and pre-create the table to store the data, Survey 123 will actually do that for you. So I can see here that the inspection time is creating a field for each, that we're creating a field for each of the, for the questions. So now publish this. And once published, I can actually share this out. So I can share this to a specific group, such as the field inspection crew. If this is a form that needs to be filled out broadly, I could share it to my organization. We also support sharing out a form to everyone. This was especially useful in things like a citizen science context. So when you need to go out and collect a lot of information from the public. We also have the ability to share this information for viewing only. Again, that could be, for example, your stakeholders, your management, so that they can view the data as it's coming in, but not actually edit it. We can also open this in either the browser or the field application. So we support filling this out in the web. We also support filling this out in a field application that comes on, that is available on every platform essentially, Windows, Macintosh, Android and iOS. Once data comes in, we can actually view the results. I've shifted over to another survey that we've already created the result that we've already had filled in on water quality. So I can see when the data was collected. I can also see who collected it. And then go over to the Analyze tab and view how the results are distributed. So for text questions, we can, for example, see the cloud of what are the most common words. We have a chart breaking down, in this case, for water quality, what type of water body we're inspecting. And I can just change the visualization. Also get a map of the visualization as well. And begin to also filter. So you can see that out of my total 23, out of my total data set, 23 are marshes. And again, I can see the distribution of those. I can also view the data individually. So I can select one and see its location and see the data. I can also, and this is something that we're actually releasing out of beta with the, today as part of our new 3.5 release, be able to generate a report based on this table. So I can generate a Microsoft Word document based on this information, just like mail merge essentially. And then finally, we can also export this data in a variety of formats. Finally, I can also open this in Map Viewer and be able to create other applications, such as you'll see in a little bit an operations dashboard based on this information. So that's a brief overview of Survey 123. With that, I'll hand it back to Jonathan and we can continue.
Perfect, yeah. Thank you very much, James. That was really a great presentation. So now it's time to address one of the most common questions from our users. how do we manage our crews in the field? So as we were mentioning before, operation managers need to balance efficiently their workload. They are also looking for minimizing the cost by using the best routing or the best routes to each inspections. And moreover, the assignments of unexpected requirements is always a problem hard to solve on a daily basis. So we have a set of components that will really help you to solve this kind of issues. The first component of this solution would be Workforce for ArcGIS, a web and mobile application aimed to help you achieve better coordination and teamwork in the field. So basically, it allows fieldwork managers to assign work, monitor progress, and to see where workers are in real time. On the other hand, the field workers use Workforce Mobile to receive assignments and communicate their status. But what is really cool about Workforce is the capability to be integrated with other apps in order to give a seamless experience to our users. So one of those integrated apps is Navigator for ArcGIS. This is basically an app that will get your fieldworks where they need to be. It will help your teams in the field to reduce time and cost in transportation. But what is really interesting about Navigator is that it gives you the option to use your own custom data. So you can use it in combination with our online routing services. And therefore, you will be able to search and navigate directly to your organization's assets. So another thing that is important to do is once you arrive to that specific point, you will need to collect information. And Workforce also integrate automatically with Survey123 or Collector. So let me show you how these amazing apps works together. So let me go ahead here. Let's open the project. There we go. So I am right now, let's say I am working for the Environmental Health Department of Chicago. So I'm here in my ArcGIS Enterprise portal, and I can go ahead and open Workforce for ArcGIS. Once I open Workforce, my first step would be to create a project. So I just need to hit here, create project, specify what kind of project I want to create. Let's say one for food inspections. Let's put here demo. Oh. Then just create this project. And behind the scenes, what this will do is create all the web maps and all the configurations we need for a Workforce project. I already did create one. And as you can see, once you create a project, you can configure what kind of integrations you want, what kind of information you want to show to the dispatchers or field workers. And also you can define what kind of assignments you want to have in your project. In this case, since we are simulating a food inspections process, we have, for example, complaints, follow-up inspections, license renewal, routine, and so on. Also, I can define the users. So here I can select any user from my enterprise deployment, or I can bring any user from my Active Directory implementation and define what is the role that I want to assign for that specific user. He could be a dispatcher, so he can manage people in the office, or he can be or she can be a mobile worker on the field. Finally, we can define the advanced capabilities like the apps integration. For this specific project, we are integrated to Navigator and Survey123. So here I have the project. This project is already connected to our field inspection system. So we are pulling that information from that external system, and that's why you see here that I have specific assignments all across the city. But also what I can do is create those assignments using the UI. For example, I can select some restaurants here in the north part of this territory. And then I can go ahead here, select those, and create assignments on a batch process. So this is really useful. Also, what is really interesting is that I can basically look for a restaurant. So for example, let's say I receive an emergency call because there were 2 cases of food poisoning in a specific restaurant. So I can look for, let's say, Homestyle Cooking Chicago restaurant. That this is a made-up name, by the way. And I can find that restaurant since Workforce is connected right now to that database. And basically, I can create an assignment. So let's create it. I will select this as a complaint. Then I can see who is the field worker that is the closest to that specific assignment. In this case, my handsome twin brother. And then I will select this as a critical priority. This should be done by today. As the ID, let's enter here the license number. And just for this demo, as a description, let's put the name of the restaurant. So I can create the assignment, and now my field worker, let's put here my tablet. If I open Workforce for ArcGIS, I will receive on the top this new assignment. So I can click here, view the assignment. I can see that it's close to my current position, and I can take advantage of the integrated capabilities of Workforce and select Navigate to the assignment. So automatically, Navigator will be launched. I can start the navigation here. So
starting route to Homestyle Cooking Chicago. Go north on South Wallace Street toward West 31st Street. Destination in 960 feet. Destination in 540 feet. Destination in 200. You have arrived at Homestyle Cooking Chicago on your right.
Perfect. So we arrived to the specific restaurant. And once we are in the location, now I can start to collect the information. So I will launch Survey 123 here. And you can see here an amazing capability. If you see here the license and the establishing name and even the location, all those are already filled. And this is because we are pulling data from Workforce to Survey 123, and in that way, the field worker is saving a lot of time. So I will start just answering some of these questions and taking advantage to the fact that Survey 123 also can auto-calculate specific fields. So for example, if I answer here some of them like out of compliance, you can see that we have calculated the score. So he has a 68, this is a B. I can put some remarks here. Well, let's take a picture rather. So here is my lunch. And then can go ahead and just of the fact that Survey also support signatures, and I can submit this survey. Once I've done that, I can return to Workforce, and I can let the people in the office that this specific assignment is done. So you can see here in a moment, there we go, that this assignment is complete. So now I can continue with the other assignments. So you can see the power of having this kind of integration between Workforce, Navigator, and Survey 123. And with that being said, now let me go ahead here because it's time to talk about monitoring, and Derek Lowe will help us with that.
Okay, hopefully, thanks, Jonathan, for talking about Workforce Navigator. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. And I'm here to talk about Operations Dashboard for ArcGIS, which, as he mentioned, it's a monitoring app. It's a presentation app which allows you to basically build dashboard applications. So Operations Dashboard for ArcGIS allows you to monitor assets, events, and activities for at-a-glance decision-making. And as you can see by the screenshots on the slide here, really it's a configurable app that's web browser based that allows you to build a presentation of your data. So we talked through a whole bunch of different applications like Collector, Survey 123, Workforce for ArcGIS allows you to coordinate your crews into the field, and Navigator allows you to do routing to locations. But once you've gathered all the data you've collected into the field, you can now display it in a nice presentation app or in a dashboard. So Operations Dashboard allows you to display your data, display your key performance indicators, and you can use this application without writing any code. It's available as a complete configurable user experience within ArcGIS Online or within your Portal for ArcGIS component of ArcGIS Enterprise. We've had Operations Dashboard available with ArcGIS Enterprise at the 10.6 release and later. And of course, your dashboards can be viewed in any web browser, right? Either on a desktop application or on a mobile device, such as a smartphone or a tablet. So how do I get started? Well, first I sign into my ArcGIS Online organization or Portal for ArcGIS. And there are 4 different ways to access Operations Dashboard. The first is to use the app launcher, and you saw that demonstrated earlier by my colleagues. The second is you can actually view a web map inside the map viewer, and then you can hit the share button and create a brand new dashboard application. And as you can see by the screen capture labeled number 2, it's available as one of 3 configurable options, right? You can use a configurable application template, you can use Web App Builder for ArcGIS, or you can now choose Operations Dashboard. The third option is directly from the item details page. Your content page. You can simply click the create button and again, choose Operations Dashboard, or you can go to a web maps item detail page and then choose create Operations Dashboard. The point I want to emphasize is that Operations Dashboard for ArcGIS is tightly integrated within an ArcGIS Online organization or also within Portal for ArcGIS. Now, you start to create a dashboard within Operations Dashboard. You get a blank canvas, and basically we give you a what you see is what you get drag and drop user experience. And included within Operations Dashboard is a collection of elements. Think of these like Lego blocks. You pick and choose how simple or how complex you want your dashboard to be. So on the slide, we've listed 11 different elements that are available to you, and you decide which one of these pieces or Lego blocks you want to include in your dashboard application. So you can add a header, you can add a map, and you can show pie charts and serial charts. Now, unfortunately, in the interest of time, I can't demo authoring a dashboard, but I'm going to show you some example dashboard applications. So hopefully you can see by now I have Google Chrome open in a web browser, and I have lots of different dashboard applications on display. For example, this is a demonstration dashboard showing you operational status, and this dashboard is showing you data that was collected with Survey 123. So someone went out into the field, maybe different crews, field crews, they submitted surveys, and now that data is being summarized within this dashboard. You can see here we have a chart in the upper right-hand corner. We have several different indicator elements showing you percentages of cooperation or completion, and also an indicator in the lower left-hand corner showing you the number of surveys submitted. In this second dashboard, we're continuing that theme of restaurant inspections. Now, in this case, we've done a whole bunch of restaurant inspections around a city, and we have several different indicators at the top showing us a summary or a filter of ones that were graded A versus graded B versus graded C. And also we have an indicator in red text showing you how many restaurants are still due for inspections. Now, what's great about this dashboard is I can zoom in and zoom out for Baltimore, but I could also select a restaurant in my list, and then my dashboard can be interactive, and I can actually zoom to my display and zoom in on that restaurant. Another common use case for health and human services, of course, is homeless count, right? So in many cities, there's a homeless situation that the city or the government needs to monitor and deal with. And here we have another dashboard with, again, some indicators summarizing some key factors like how many adults versus children versus veterans. What's interesting about this dashboard, and again, the data is simulated, is as I change my spatial extent in my map, notice my indicators also update. So they respond to the updated spatial extent of my dashboards. Now, up until now, I've shown you 3 demonstration dashboards made by Esri's Health and Human Services team. What I'm going to show you next are actually some live, real customer dashboards made by customers. And this one here, this is made by the city of Tempe in Arizona, and it's showing you opioid abuse. So it's used by their EMS emergency management services where they have reported incidents of opioid abuse. And again, you'll see my serial charts and my indicators update as my spatial extent changes. We have another dashboard related to opioid abuse. In this case, this is fatal overdoses within Stark County. And again, they've applied a spatial filter on the map. So as I change my spatial extent, my various data visualizations, in this case, my indicators and my serial charts and my gauges also update. This next example, which is a dashboard made by Direct Relief, and that's a nonprofit organization. And they had an event called City Cancer Challenge. They use Operations Dashboard to configure this really nice public-friendly display. It's really just a map element with several different indicators on the right-hand side, but they've dressed it up to be really nice. And it's designed to encourage various events worldwide where they're dealing with fighting cancer. Now, you can make many different standalone dashboards, but I have another example that I want to show you. In this case, this is actually an open data page made by the World Health Organization, partnered up with the Republic of Congo, and this web page is dealing with monitoring and fighting the Ebola virus. Now they have this open data site here, but as I scroll down halfway through, notice they've deployed Operations Dashboard tracking the number of deaths caused by Ebola. And again, you can zoom into the spatial extent and it'll update the data visualizations. The point I want to make and emphasize is that within your industry, health and human services, there are lots of different potential uses of Operations Dashboard for ArcGIS. Think of it as a presentation app to show and present your data, perhaps to senior stakeholders, senior management, or your constituents. It's available at no additional charge as part of your ArcGIS online organization, or included with Portal for ArcGIS inside ArcGIS Enterprise. Now, if you want to learn more, I recommend that you go to GeoNet. This is the website that Esri houses for you to post questions. There's actually a blog called Operations Dashboard, Useful Links. And if you scroll down, notice we have a whole bunch of video resources where you can learn more about Operations Dashboard for ArcGIS. There's also some tutorial videos, so how to get started quickly and configure and build your own dashboards. There are also how-to blogs listed here. So how do I enable a certain piece of functionality or behavior, such as that action where I have that spatial filter on my map? We also have some best practices blogs, but really, I also want to emphasize at the bottom of this blog is we have this live updated list of real example dashboards. So all these links here under dashboard examples are all real customer examples where you see some dashboards listed for a whole bunch of various use cases. The one I want to draw your attention to is this one here in the middle called Operations Dashboard used to help address the opioid epidemic. In this blog, what I've done is every time I have access or I see a real customer example of dashboards being used to combat the opioid epidemic, you can see here from various different municipalities, we have these different dashboards listed. And you can go to this link or this blog, click on these links to access these dashboards in real time and see how other professionals in the health and human services community have used dashboard to combat the opioid epidemic. So if you want to learn more about Operations Dashboard, I encourage you to go to the Useful Links blog, or you can go to esri.com/products and click on Operations Dashboard for ArcGIS. Here you get some high-level background information on the application, and then you get step-by-step on how it works, as well as some use cases. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Jonathan.
All right, thank you very much, Derek. that really was a interesting presentation. So let me share my screen here. There we go. Okay, so now closing this series of great presentations, I would like to talk about one of our newest capabilities for real-time monitoring, Tracker for ArcGIS. And Tracker allows organizations to track the last known location and location tracks, which is the record of where users have gone, of any ArcGIS user across the organization. So they can be monitored using the ArcGIS platform. Now, location tracking can be used for a variety of health-related scenarios. For example, the improvement of home health nurses services, allowing managers to make sure critical patients are being covered 24 hours a day by different personnel, or supporting emergency departments that are deploying naloxone to assess their daily operations in order to improve the rates of success. We also know how important it is to have real-time situational awareness during an emergency, because it will allow you as a manager to know the last known location of your personnel to secure their safety in the field. So Tracker is made up of three main components across the ArcGIS platform. First, a mobile app that allows your field workers activate the location feed. And I really would like to stress this. This app is optimized for very low battery consumption, and the user is always in control of when he is sending his location to the system. The second component is the track viewer, where managers can track their field workers and visualize the historical location, and also they can filter the information to see specific activities during the day. And finally, the organizational capability, which is basically the backend, that allows storing these tracks into a spatiotemporal data store so users can analyze their data and basically take advantage of it. So let me give you a very quick demo on Tracker, and I'm sure that those of you that are going to the UC will see more about this great application. So right now I am in my enterprise portal, and first of all, I can go to my organizational settings to see if I have activated my tracking capabilities. So I will go to settings, and here in settings, I can have access to my location tracking capabilities. So in this case is already activated. And now that I'm sure I have this capability activated, my user in the field that have access to Tracker, that have installed Tracker, which is a premium app, can access to Tracker mobile app and start sending their location feed. So in this way, as a manager, then I can access to my track viewer and start seeing all the information of the tracks of my field workers. In this case, for example, I have 2 field workers. I can filter this information based on the field worker. Let's say I just want to see information of Matthew. Then also I can filter information related to using time as a filter. For example, I can see only information from the last 72 hours, or can again go ahead here and basically see the information of the last month. Then what I can do also is to filter information based on accuracy. So let's say I want to see information that have accuracy less than 50 feet. And we are right now filtering these tracks. And finally, I can filter again this information based on speed. For example, if I go ahead here and I want to see all those specific places where my field worker has been moving faster than 60 miles per hour, can apply, and you can see how only the highways are highlighted here. Finally, what I can do, and this is really interesting, is I can filter information based on activity. So if I, for example, select stationary, let me go ahead here again. You can see all those points here in the map where my field worker has stopped to do specific data collection. So this is just a brief demo, but I think that you can see the power of tracker that the tracker can bring to your organization. Okay, so just to finish this presentation, let me give you a brief summary of what we have seen today. We have covered all of the workflows that are key to the success for our fieldwork activities. Each of these workflows can be supported by a single or multiple apps that allow you to improve coordination and operational efficiencies while reducing or even replacing reliance on paper. And finally, it will ensure that both your field workers and your office workers use the same data to reduce error, boost productivity, and save money. Also, it's really important to mention that our users have the last word when it comes to deciding which is your best deployment pattern. Some of you that need a quick deployment and are working with data that is not sensitive can use ArcGIS Online out of the box to leverage our fieldwork capabilities. But most of you that are working with sensitive data and have to comply with the standards like HIPAA will need to deploy these capabilities in your own environment. And the good news is that you are able to do it using ArcGIS Enterprise. And finally, these implementations are not exclusive to each other. There are many users that are using hybrid implementations, taking the best of both worlds, using each option according to their needs. And as a final slide, I would like to call our audience to action. And one of the best ways to do it is pointing you to our solutions webpage. You will find a comprehensive list of templates ready to use to solve those problems that health departments and hospitals need to address on a daily basis. Some of them, like the Vector Control Reporting app, or the Naloxone Deployment app, or the Rapid Health Need Assessment Survey, will definitely simplify your work on the field. And with that being said, it's time now for questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. We've got questions actually for all three of you. Starting with the first question, it says, will Collector work with ArcGIS Online or only dedicated organizational servers? So this one's for you, Jonathan.
All right, yeah, that's a great question, and the answer is you are able to decide where you want to integrate Collector. You can use Collector using ArcGIS Enterprise or ArcGIS Online. As I was mentioning in the last slide, it will depend on the sensitivity of the data that you are using, but you have both options to use.
Perfect, thank you. Next question is for James. James, this question is asking, do users need to have a personal Esri account to utilize Survey 123?
So to author and create forms, you do need to have an ArcGIS account, either, again, in ArcGIS Online or with ArcGIS Enterprise, as Jonathan was saying. To be able to fill in a survey, that is governed by how the survey author has shared the survey. So the survey author can choose to share to a group or to their organization. And in that situation, the person filling in the survey would need to have an access to, have an account to log in to access that survey. The survey author can also choose to share out the survey to everyone. In that situation, a login is not required. It's an anonymous collection methodology. Again, this is very appropriate for collecting data from from the general public in a citizen science or crowdsourcing type survey.
Okay, thank you, James. Another question we have for Derek. This is about operations. Is Operations Dashboard available for ArcGIS Enterprise?
Yes, Operations Dashboard is available for ArcGIS Enterprise, specifically at the 10.6 release or higher. So 10.6, 10.6, 10.6.1, 10.7, and now 10.7.1. It's available in all 4 of those releases.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions that we have for now. Thanks everyone for joining us, and go to esri.com/help to sign up for our next meetup. Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.